Let's start with the Trump hush money case in New York. It's almost over, with the New York Post saying the prosecutor's case is nothing to brag about. Get it? Because his name's Bragg. They say that they haven't even accurately named what crimes Donald Trump is alleged to have committed. Professor at George Washington University Law School, Jonathan Turley, writes in the New York Post, a classic closing pitch by lawyers is to use a physical object like a three-legged stool. If any leg is missing, the stool collapses. Even a cursory review of the evidence, this case does not have a leg to stand on. The question is whether hatred for this man is enough to ignore the obvious injustice in this case. In the end, we are all standing on that wobbly stool when the government seeks to convict people without evidence or even a clear crime. If we allow a conviction, it is more than a stool that will collapse in this Manhattan courtroom. Let's bring in Sky News contributor Kosha Gada. Kosha, strong words there. Trump has faced an incredible assault from multiple prosecutors. This is a criminal case, though, so it's got added weight. How do you think this is going to unfold? So many legal experts are saying the case is worse than wobbly. There is no case, but we're talking about a Manhattan jury. We know where that jury pool is drawn from. We've seen the conduct of the judge. My feeling is there's going to be a conviction here.
It seems to be where the smart money says this is going to end up, and we'll know, I think, in short order, in a matter of a week or two or even less. I think the biggest thing on trial here, actually, on the world stage is the justice system, and the New York justice system in particular, for all the reasons you mentioned with this case, as well as the civil cases where he has that $500 million plus fine ticking away $100,000 a day in interest payments. So it's not a good look for New York, and I say that as somebody who lived there for 16 years. It's quite embarrassing, actually, for many people, regardless of what you think about Trump. But to your question about what it'll do, that is one thing that even if legally it's on shaky ground, if a conviction happens, which is what the smart money says, it is that indictment of the New York justice system, that it is not a fair and impartial jury. And then politically, I think the other issue is that's the other piece of this, because it's not just any defendant. All calculations are there's two opposing forces. That will this make him more of a martyr, which it has been doing in all the polls. People are really galvanizing around him. Or are there some swaths, we've talked about this before, suburban moms and others, who just won't be able to look past the convicted felon label, and that will hurt him, and that's the calculation that time will reveal.
Well, you would think there would be a fair chunk of the country that is not that politically engaged, that just reads the headlines, and you've got a presidential candidate who's got a criminal conviction. Surely that has to have a negative impact. But thus far in the polls, that hasn't been the way. When this trial started, his lead in the polls was very small. It was around 1%, and now he's got a significant lead. And part of that success is because he's getting a lot of support from non-white voters, Asians, Hispanics, and even black folk, and that was evident with the Bronx rally that Trump held recently. Let's just have a look at that.
Where are you from?
The Bronx, actually.
I'm originally from the Bronx and from New York.
I'm from the Bronx.
Right here in the Bronx, New York. This is home, right here.
AOC says if you're not a Democrat, you don't belong here in the Bronx. Right. What do you say?
I disagree with that.
I don't think she should be here in the Bronx. I actually don't know any Democrats living in the Bronx.
Look, AOC, look at the tremendous support for Mr. Donald J. Trump.
You need to tell her then she need to stay out the Bronx, because look at all the people around. Everybody's here for Trump.
I am a Democrat, and I belong here.
And who are you voting for?
Donald J. Trump.
What has AOC done for the Bronx?
She's done nothing for the Bronx. Nothing. Nothing's changed. Nothing's gotten any better.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Let her come to the Bronx and let her come among us people that struggle. She doesn't even know what struggle is.
Ooh, Kosha, I should have had a trigger warning for any lefties watching before that compilation. It was quite devastating. Let's hear now from Madeline Bram, National Crimes Victim Rights Advocate, who was on stage for this Bronx rally, and she had some strong words for the crowd as well.
Then we have the illegals flooding our borders, coming into our communities, sucking up the resources that we barely have. Why should we allow this to happen? democracy.
Kosha, that's not something I thought I'd ever see. A Trump rally in the Bronx, in the hood. It was in one of the worst parts of the Bronx, I'm told.
It was South Bronx. He has been confined to New York City because of that trial we just discussed. And, you know, he did what he does best, which is make lemonade out of lemons. He goes in there. It's remarkable because he is on offense. That I don't think a Republican candidate has been there in 40 years. And his message seems to be resonating with that group in particular. So it's fascinating stuff.